Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
That's a tough act to follow. Everyone knows for the past few years, every year Janice wants to do Black History. Please recognize, I've always said this, I'm going to keep saying this every year. We're not just 1 month of Black history. We're a lifetime of history. For a lot of times now, we've actually gone outside to find other people that have created history. Mount Chapel has its own history. I'm going to introduce you to 2 ladies today that have created their own history right here at this church. And please be patient with me. I was telling the wife I don't feel too good again, but I'm going to go through this right here. The first person is Brandy Threet. As she calls her professional name, Brandy Lachey. Brandy is a 2016 graduate of Orangeburg-Wilson High School. She's a 2017 graduate of Claflin University with a BA degree in mass communication. She's also a 2022 graduate of University of Louisville with a Master's of Fine Arts, performing certified in Afro-American theater, and the oldest of 2 to Preston and Miss Thelma Threet. She has some published work and interviews. A call to the Black Woman. This was actually written by Brandy. The gospel message is still the same. Something also written by Brandy. It was one in particular that I wanted everybody to hear. It was privileged to be a Negro woman. This is a lot of times we don't want to actually sometimes touch things that seem to offend people, but you got to. We've been offended our entire lives. We need to start letting people know how we feel about being offended. And I'm glad this young lady decided to touch that topic so people would actually understand why we feel. Nobody's in here is a nigger. Let me say that again. Nobody in this room is a nigger. We're Negroes. We have Negro heritage, but we're not niggers. Because niggers is the derogatory statement. We're not that. And we won't be that. A Price to Pay, also written by Brandy. Some of her awards: Best Leading Actress in a Play. So as everyone might know, Brandy started her career here doing monologues. The most powerful one I still always remember was when she did Harry Tubman right here. I think it scared Deep that time when she jumped out from the corner. Because she was so powerful. We all knew right then this was a special person. That she had somewhere to go and she was still on her path to go there. Another one is the Warren Oates Academy Award from the University of Louisville. You got to understand, we always talk about these people in the Academy Awards and all these things. She won for a school. And you talking about all the people who actually went to the University of Louisville. Not many people can say they won that award. Brandy did. Outstanding Supporting Actress. Some of the affiliations she has is Community Liaison, Associate Artist Director, Residence Teaching Artist. And one thing I did want to talk about Brandy was some of her work she's done where she's been at. She actually has one thing that actually stood out to me, anything. She serves on the board of the Netherlands Art as community liaison and works for Red Line Performing Arts as the first and only woman of the profession as an associate artist director. Understand what that means? Y'all know how big Louisville is, right? Louisville is actually bigger than South Carolina. That means she left South Carolina to make a name for herself. Remember when I said the first and only Black? First and only. Brandy's actually stepping out there on horizons that still seem to be bigger for her. than we actually gonna give her credit for.
Amen.
Please help me as I give us a round of salute to Miss Brandy Lachey Threet. Now we have one other person. I met this young person 1991. She was 2 years old. Could not stand me. I don't know why, but she would not let me touch her. She would not let me hold her. Some few years later, she started playing sports and actually was on my team. I've never gotten her out of my presence since that day. She was my ball girl when I was coaching football. Pretty sure by now everybody might know what I'm talking about. Doctor.
Yes.
Dr. Tyra.
Yes.
Tata. Renee Pugh. A couple things about Tyra. Tyra is a 2007 graduate of Manning High School. Salutatorian. I mean, she got a brain, y'all. You know she got a brain already. And actually, before I go any further, remember this, y'all. Y'all hear all these people have the doctor titles. There's a difference between an earned doctorate and a given doctorate.
That's right.
That's an earned doctorate right there. That is a putting your work to the stone to get what you want. She's also a 2011 graduate of USC School, Bachelor's of Associate Exercise Science. And the most proud moment, because when she actually was about to graduate with her doctorate, she told me to my face, "You better be there. Don't make me look for you." So me and Kathy and the rest of the family made our way to her graduation. In 2018, a graduate of Emory and Henry Doctoral of Physical Therapy. The other thing about this particular graduate program that she graduated from was too, Tyra was the only minority. No, rephrase that. Tyra was the only black in that class that graduated together. The other week, May and Pastor kept talking about how it was not for Tyra, it's for others as they move forward in their lives. If I'm not wrong, Sergeant Major told us that he had a nephew now that's actually enrolled in the program because of her stepping forward and giving people the chance to understand that you can do this. Young people, you can do whatever you want to do. Don't let nobody tell you anything different. Once again, please help me recognize one of my best friends, somebody I love to death, Miss Dr. Tyra Tata Renee Pugh. Thank you.
Amen.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Today I have for you the Green Book. The Green Book, a travel guide published from 1936 through 1967 during the segregation era in the United States that identified businesses that would accept black customers. Compiled by Victor Hugo Green, a black postman who lived in Harlem section of New York City, the Green Book listed a variety of businesses from restaurants and hotels to beauty salons and drugstores that were necessary to make travel comfortable and safe for black people in the period before passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Automobile travel exploded in the United States during the mid-20th century as more and more Americans were able to afford cars and had disposable income and leisure time that allowed them to explore the country. The proliferation of tourist homes, roadside motels, restaurants, and tourist attractions offer convenience that made it possible for car travel to be a joyful, spontaneous adventure for most Americans. This was seldom the experience for black travelers during the Jim Crow era, however. Because segregation was pervasive not just in the South, but throughout the country, black travelers not only met with the inconvenience and humiliation of being turned away from businesses, but also had to be ever mindful of the threat of racist violence, including lynching. The landscape was dotted with sundown towns, where the presence of people of color was banned after nightfall. To address the uncertainty of attaining lodging, meals, and fuel, black car travelers brought with them blankets and pillows, extra food, drinks, and gasoline, as well as portable toilets. The difficulty, embarrassment, and fear that accompanied car travel for black people became especially apparent to Green after he married a woman from Richmond, Virginia, to which the couple traveled from their home in Harlem. In 1936, he made an attempt to address the problem by producing the Negro Motorist Green Book, a 15-page guide that listed travel-related businesses in metropolitan New York City that welcomed African-American customers. To compile the listing, Green, then age 44, drew on his own first-hand experience as well as recommendations from fellow postal workers. Green lived in Harlem, but delivered mail in New Jersey. He found a model for his publication in the guides for Jewish travelers that appeared in Jewish newspapers. The demand for the first Green Book was so great that by the publication of the second annual edition in 1937, Green had shifted his focus to a national scope. To do so, he used his involvement with the National Association of Letter Carriers to reach out to postal workers across the country to gather information. He also received assistance from Charles McDowell, the collaborator on Negro Affairs for the United States Travel Bureau, an office of the Department of the Interior charged with promoting American tourism. Early on, Green also began soliciting recommendations from the guide users. In addition to motels, tourist homes, and restaurants, the book also had listings for taverns, nightclubs, tailors, barbershops, beauty salons, drugstores, liquor stores, gas stations, and garages. The guide included articles on safe driving, places of interest, what to see in Chicago, travel essays, a Canadian trip, and special topics, how to guard your home during vacation season, along with travel tips like what to wear in Bermuda, and consumer reviews of automobiles. By 1940, the Green Book had more than tripled in length. By 1947, it contained more than 80 pages. The book's geographic scope was ever expanding and eventually included all 50 states, as well as listings for Canada, the Caribbean, Latin America, Europe, and Africa. As time went on, however, the subjects of the listings became limited to hotels, motels, and tourist homes. Publication of the Green Book was suspended during World War II, but resumed in 1947. That year, Green opened a travel company, Reservation Bureau, with its office on 135th Street in Harlem above Small's Paradise, a music venue that was central to African American culture in the 20th century. In 1952, he retired from the Postal Service. The Green Book was not the only publication of its kind. It was preceded by Hackley and Harrison's Hotel and Apartment Guide for the Colored Travelers from 1930 to 1931, the Travel Guide from 1947 to 63, and Grayson's Guide, the Go Guide to Pleasant Motoring from 1953 to 1959, were contemporaries of the Green Book, but neither was published as long nor reached as big an audience as the Green Book, which was dubbed the Bible of Black travel. By 1962, there were more than 2 million copies of it in circulation. The guide listed both black and white-owned businesses. In some cases, the welcoming of black customers by white-owned businesses was a principled declaration of opposition to segregation, while in others, it was merely a pragmatic recognition of the profits to be made from the increasing mobility and affluence of African Americans. The Green Book received special support from Esso, the forerunner of Exxon, largely owing to the efforts of James Jackson, the first African American to work for the company as a marketing specialist. One of the only U.S. oil companies that allowed African Americans to buy franchises, Esso sponsored the Green Book and sold it in its gas stations. Although little of the content of the Green Book was overtly political, the implicit politics of exclusion and segregation's denial of access and equity were the subtext of every listing. The comments that Green published from some of those who responded to his request for information were also often telling, such as the remarks in the 1948 guide by a correspondent from Dickinson in North Dakota, where Green says, "The attitude of a majority of those I contacted was that while they themselves had no color prejudice, some of their regular customers did. This was the impression I gained from hotel operators, barbers, and others contacted. They were all eager to provide whatever services were required by Negroes visiting Dickinson. Ignorance is the root of prejudice. There is a special type of ignorance in this section regarding Negroes. There are so few Negroes living in North Dakota that a colored person is still a curiosity. Some of the prejudice here is merely unfamiliarity with any other race. It is a general thing and not specific. When talking about Negroes abstractly, they feel differently than if a colored person in person asked them for services. In his introduction in the 1948 edition of the guide, Green himself wrote, "There will be a day sometime in the near future when this guide will not have to be published. That is when we as a race will have equal opportunities and privileges in the United States. It will be a great day for us to suspend this publication, for when we can go wherever we please and without embarrassment." Green died in 1960, 4 years before the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act greatly reduced the need for the Green Book, which ceased publication in 1967. And here today I have with me the 1940 edition. And some of the listings for South Carolina include Aiken, the tourist homes of Mrs. C.F. Holland and Mrs. M.H. Harrison, roadhouses, including the Chauffeur's Inn and Sumter Street. In Beaufort, there were tourist homes of D. Brown, service stations, also of D. Brown. In Charleston, there were tourist homes of Mrs. Alston, Mrs. Gladden, Mrs. H.L. Harleston, Mrs. Mays, and different taverns such as the Green Grill and Harleston's Villa. In Columbia, the hotels included the Taylor Hotel, tourist homes of Mrs. H. Cornwell, Mrs. W.D. Chappelle, Mrs. B. Vincent, Mrs. J.P. Wakefield, Mrs. S.H. Smith, restaurants such as Green Leaf on 1117 Washington Street, taverns such as the College Inn and 1609 Hardin Street, service stations such as Waverly at 2200 Taylor Street and A.W. Simpkins 1331 Park Street, barbershops such as Holman's on 2103 Gervais Street, beauty parlors called Ruth's and M.M.E. Peters. There were taxi cabs called the Black Diamond and the Blue Ribbon, both operating on Washington Street, drugstores such as Thomas's Drugstore, and Counts on 1105 Washington Street. And there are also a few more throughout Florence, Georgetown, Mullins, Spartanburg, and Sumter, which include tourist homes of Mrs. C.H. Bracey on 210 W. Oakland Ave, Mrs. J. Boyd on 504 Main Street. And as you can see on the title, it is the Negro Motorist Green Book, which has hotels, taverns, garages, flight clubs, restaurants, service stations, automotive tourist homes, roadhouses, barbershops, and beauty parlors. And that is the history of the Negro Motorist Green Book. Thank you.